Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. And I'm going to drag the good name of journalism through the mud immediately. I'm going to ask you why you created Nano, and if it's not for a profit organization, where do you make your money?
Yeah, well, the reason I created Nano was because I saw it as an opportunity to improve something, to improve our currency in the world. There's a lot of delays, a lot of inefficiencies, and a lot of improvements to be made. And when I first heard of the concept of digital currency, I was very intrigued. I'm very interested in economics, and I wanted that to be successful over time. But some years went by, things weren't really working out as well as I had hoped, so I decided to take a look at it from a technical perspective. My background is software engineering, and see if I could make an improvement. And eventually, Nano was started. I worked on it for a few years by myself, and then we started our team, about 1.5 years ago, really going at it.
And so you're doing this for the good of the world. Purely.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. It's an opportunity to really make a change. I think when we look back at this point, this will be a pivotal point in economics, just from the standpoint of we've never had the ability to send currency around the world as fast as we can right now. It's a unique thing. We've always had to move gold or move a physical item somewhere in order to get it there. We've emulated it a little bit by electronic banking to say, this is a promise, I've moved it into your account, you don't have it, but we'll move it over there through the central bank, it'll get to you in 2 days. And that's close, but with cryptocurrency, you can genuinely immediately move value to the other side of the world, and it's finalized instantaneously. And that represents a fundamental shift, I think, in what we can do and what we can make use of.
What is, wrong essentially with money? Is it a new money that the world needs, or is it the infrastructure that currently money is going through that's not fit for purpose, in your view?
I think some of it isn't a problem with the currency. It's just we used what we had. Currency has evolved over time. We use gold, then we use notes to make it easier, but we've always had it tied to a physical entity rather than being able to send it over information. So this is just more of an evolution of what currency can be, I think. And once you can make use of this really fast way of moving things, I think as the financial institutions start to pick that up and start to make use of it, we'll be shedding a lot of excess costs that are just associated with moving money around in the way it is.
And if we're talking about people, individuals, perhaps unbanked, right? So not experts necessarily in cryptocurrencies or banking or the infrastructure. So what security can they get from owning Nano? In some of these countries, the value of money rapidly disappears. So aren't there any concerns that Nano will just be something sitting on the computer that they can't actually use?
Well, yeah, that's something that we've actually been working on a lot this year. It's how to get people in these areas access to cryptocurrency. You're right, they don't typically even have desktop computers, but they do have mobile phones. So we've been looking a lot at what it takes in order to get them money. And I think that we've had a lot of discussions internally about this, that there are a lot of people in the world that don't have access to the banking systems that we have today. Part of it is because there is a large cost to setting up banking institutions, and if the infrastructure is not there, if there's not enough money being moved around, banks are not going to move into that area, so they have to operate on barter or physical currency. And giving them access to a digital currency, I think, represents, it's connecting them to the rest of the world.
Do you have any, because it's so decentralized and so available to anyone, do you have any concerns about things like KYC or where the money is coming from? Any kind of money laundering concerns, perhaps, and is there a solution?
Yeah, it's going to have to be a change from what we have today, but we can still, I think, get the same results. It'll just have to be done differently and adapt to the new technology. There isn't a way for us to do a KYC in our protocol or anti-money laundering, and also that varies by country by country. So there'd be no way for us to create this software internally and satisfy everyone globally. However, what people, countries, regulatory bodies can do is work at the storefront level or at the banking institution level and implement those types of things there rather than inside of the protocol itself. So it'll be an adaptation to the new technology. I don't know all the answers to this, but that's why one of our main goals is education. We're working with lawmakers and working with institutions to teach them how cryptocurrency works and teach them how to make use of it.
Okay, so in terms of the data, and I think we all know that Facebook is launching a stablecoin, and everyone at Facebook is really excited about that. So what's the kind of difference? I think one of the key worries about the Facebook project, because of that company's history, is data and how they're going to use and monetize that data. So do you have any sort of assurances around data and people's personal security?
Yeah, I mean, that one thing is we don't store anyone's data. We don't control anyone's money. We don't run the transactions. And that kind of goes to our decentralized purpose, which is so that us as the Nano Foundation or as the developers, we can't by design control the transactions that are going on. And I think that gives people assurance that we're not running this. I don't think that, in my opinion, somebody that's creating currency, that can't be in control of one organization in one geographic area of the world. It's really a global thing. It's not a technology. It's a tool that needs to be used globally. And the reason that we don't do like a stable coin instead of just a pure cryptocurrency, because it's not really moving us away from what the advantage of cryptocurrency was. The advantage of cryptocurrency was you can send value instantaneously around the world. A stablecoin is still just a promise of an underlying asset. It's a promise that wherever this money is stored in the depository, you can get that later, and we're moving it around. You don't actually have that good yet, and I think that's an important distinction. It's one of the defining distinctions of cryptocurrency. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think the stablecoin satisfies everything that I wanted to do with cryptocurrency.
Do you think that venture will be successful? Do you see a big adoption for the Facebook coin?
That's a hard question. I mean, I'm sure it'll be used, but I mean, there's many instances of very large companies putting backing behind ambitious projects, and it doesn't work out all the time. I mean, just having a large company behind it doesn't work. I mean, I think a company rather than a technology company, a finance company would probably be more successful at that. So I don't know. I don't know how well it'll work, quite honestly.
That would be quite ironic, an existing finance company trying to disintermediate themselves from the world.
That would be true, yeah.
So what I was going to ask you is about whether you see Nano as a payment currency. So sending money around the world efficiently, it's a store of value that you can easily transport, or as a currency for everyday use?
Well, I mean, I think both, because currency is supposed to be a store of value and a transfer of value. And you really can't have one without the other. It doesn't make sense. So it's hard for me to respond usually when people ask, what can Nano be used for? It's like, well, it can be used for anything that currency can be used for, everything in the world. We're most concerned with what's the initial adoption, what are the best ways to get it out there and get it in circulation, and rather than what it can all be used for. So. What
happens if someone loses their phone, computer breaks?
Yeah.
something happens to the
I mean,
company?
Well, I mean, if I can answer what happens to the company, the software still exists, and we don't control the transactions. It's still out there. So Nano would continue to go on, even if we weren't putting this presentation on today and Nano Foundation wasn't here. It would still be out there.
So it's like signing up to LinkedIn. You never leave.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, what was your?
What happens if someone loses their phone?
Yeah. I
or-
mean, it's very equivalent to what happens if you lose cash. You don't have it with you anymore. We make a big effort to try to make sure there's a number that's called your seed that needs to be backed up, because that's where all your money is stored. So it's very important to keep that secure. I think as time goes on, it will be insured and taking like a custodial, essentially a bank will probably also be able to take care of cryptocurrency for people that want to use that. And if you don't want to use a bank, you can just store it yourself. So there's just giving options out there. But yeah, if you lose the seed, I mean, you lose all your money. If your gold bricks sink into the ocean, you're not getting them back. It's gone.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay, I mean, in terms of, but I guess what can you do?
I don't know. It's how it is.
Never happened to me. I never had a gold sink in the ocean, but.
No.
So at the moment, for Nano to really work, you still do need the existing infrastructure for finance, so central bank settlement. Is that correct?
I mean, it depends on what you're doing. There's more and more stores and places that are accepting Nano directly. People are transacting in.
But they will
in
need
Nano.
it somewhere, because presumably, if you're buying milk as Tesco,
Yeah.
you'll have a hard time convincing your supplier that.
It's true. I mean, if you're in a country like this, or like any country, it's hard to do that. But I think of it conceptually like Nano isn't a new concept. It's a different currency. So no one here uses U.S. dollars to pay for things day to day. You use sterling. So it's not inconceivable that a country out there can use dollars to interact with each other, and they do. So it's, I think, entirely plausible that people can just use Nano without going in and out of a fiat currency. They can't do it now as well. You have to find very specific people that would accept it or will pay you in it. But that's kind of the adoption thing, is to expand that horizon out more.
But that's at the moment.
Yeah,
really,
it's limited at the moment.
You are coexisting
Right.
with the existing infrastructure, and then so do you see in 10 years' time that changing dramatically?
I think so. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a 5-year thing. I think that we're going to see a bigger shift within 10 years, but getting the final 50% of people to use it is going to be a longer-term thing. I don't know when that will complete. And then if you don't have access to internet, you still need some type of cash system or a physical currency. So it's going to be longer than I think a lot of people expect. I think 10 years is probably a good milestone to say, we've gotten 20 to 30% market penetration in some area that they're accepting Nano or a cryptocurrency, and it's going to keep moving on from there.
And do you see? Is there a generational element in this?
Probably. I hadn't thought about that. I think it's definitely people that use mobile phones, I think. So it's not always generational. Because I know there's a lot of younger people that also don't use cryptocurrency because it's an unknown thing. It's been largely up to this point very complicated, and a lot of people don't adopt complicated things. So yeah, I think there is a little bit.
Okay. Do you see a world where, as you said, essentially Nano is like cash, so you lose it, but currently you have, I guess, banks and asset managers and institutions who sort of look after that money for you and do something with it to make it,
Right.
grow.
Yeah.
So do you think that would ever happen with Nano? Because, if 50% of the world adopts Nano, everyone will be
Yeah.
walking around with a stash of cash, essentially?
Yeah.
Or how will this story kind of evolve, do you
No, I think they'll have it stored and invested in maybe a fractional bank where it gets reloaned out to other people. It's just like any other currency. When it's adopted, people want to store it. They're not going to carry, if somebody had a million Nano, they're not going to keep it on their phone unbacked up. They're going to keep it in a bank, insured, and it's probably going to be relent out to people.
So that will, at that point, presumably there'll be fees charged, and we'll come back to the how does Nano make its money point.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there will be fees charged for if people are providing a service like that by the institutions insuring it and providing that service. But the important factor is that the actual movement of money is much less expensive. So your base cost is much lower by using Nano, so you can bring down your cost of storing it and relending it out and pass that savings on to the user. And so how does Nano make it money itself? Well, we are a nonprofit. We don't take in any sort of revenue. We don't have fees that arrive to us. I think a lot of people that have Nano want it to be successful. It appreciates in value. So on an individual basis, we make more money on it. But it really is more than anything a tool, and it's a currency. And a currency is not it's not an investment. It's not an appreciating asset. It's just a store of value, transfer of value, all those good things.
Okay. I mean, in terms of the store of value point, do you think that central banks will exist at this point where 50% of the world is using Nano?
Well, in a lot of aspects, you don't need a lot of what the central banks do currently. I think they'll have to change. One, there won't be a monetary policy where you can inject or destroy Nano because there's no function in the protocol to do that by design. So that won't be there, and it's a little bit controversial to do that. But that also kind of comes back to if this is a global currency, who gets to decide what the monetary policy is? Is it one government? Is it a consortium of governments? I mean, what happens at that point? So one way to avoid that is just by taking that out of the picture and not having it at all. Sorry, and then what was your...
No, that's fine. I was just asking about that because I was thinking that, there are quite a lot of cryptocurrencies and coins, and Bitcoin obviously is the big daddy of all, right? So it feels quite competitive, the field to get one particular currency accepted, to get 50% of the world to use it.
Right.
So what's your kind of strategy? What do you think will make a big difference?
Right. Well, I think more than all of the other cryptocurrencies out there, ours satisfies, it's the simplicity of Nano that really appeals to people. It's not complex. You don't need to add a fee in when doing a transfer. You don't need to wait for a transfer to arrive to you. I think really is what people expect when they think of the concept of digital money. So I think from that aspect, we're in front just from a compelling advantage. And the reason I think that we'll have fewer currencies out there rather than the thousands that are out there right now is because users really benefit from a single form of currency. There's no benefit to me as a user to having to exchange my currency constantly. If I go to the US, I have to change things out for dollars. If I go to Japan, I have to change it out for yen. And that's every single time I have to do that conversion. It's inconvenient, it costs me money. Same with cryptocurrency. So really, I think there's going to be a natural demand drive towards fewer. And if there is one or a couple, I think that's where it's going to go eventually.
So it's not going to be about the market capitalization at this particular stage, or whether the price is, at huge, unrealistically high levels or crashing again. Is that actually helpful or damaging to Nano? Do you think those price swings in Bitcoin?
Oh yeah, I mean they're very damaging. The volatility in any cryptocurrency or any currency is not good, even in an upward direction. I know people talk about price increases, but simply variance in the value of a currency is not good. If I have Nano and I spend it on something and then the value of Nano goes up, I just effectively paid more than I wanted to for whatever I purchased. So you want stability in a currency, and that's what we're aiming for. I think that comes with wider adoption. The more people that accept it, the more people that purchase in it or hold it, is a stabilizing force for the value.
And so Nano is not being mined, is it?
No, it's not.
Why?
Well, one is we're using voting instead of consuming a lot of energy, so we didn't have the need to put in large block rewards or inflate our currency in order to pay people to do this. So simply by lack of need, we didn't need to add mining. So the only thing that remained for us was how do we distribute this, which mining is also a distribution mechanism. It's how the currency is put out into the system. So then we just used the CAPTCHA system in order to do that instead. So it was more of a matter of we didn't need it, so we didn't add it.
So then how can 50% of the world buy Nano if there is a limited supply? This might just be because I don't understand, but is that the case?
Well, there is a limited supply, but it can be divided down really, really small. So the number we have of Nano right now is 133 million, more or less. But actually, inside the software, it's a much larger number. So in the future, when there's more people, and it's divided amongst more people, we will just use smaller and smaller digits as it goes on.
And as you cut it into smaller and smaller pieces, presumably the price changes as well. It's going to be more expensive, or?
Yeah, I mean it'll have to. It'll fluctuate. I don't know where that's going to exactly land. I would probably look at the market capitalization of existing currencies to see where that would approximately be. But yeah, I can't. There's no way I can predict that accurately. We'll see.
That's fine, thank you. And you mentioned the energy impact. That seems pretty important to you. Do you have a fancy data center in Iceland, for example? Or?
No, we don't. Actually, we call them principal representatives. They send out the votes, and those can run on they can run on very small machines. So they're typically run in data centers. I think $20 to $30 a month is what the cost is for those. And we don't see that increasing greatly at all. So no, we don't have to have data centers. We're not consuming, renewable energy in order to do this. We're not offsetting other people's energy footprints. It's very efficient.
Okay, and finally, because I think our time is up, what's your sort of ultimate goal? What would you like to see happening with Nano by the time you decide that you're happy enough and you're just not going to work on it anymore?
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to get more people involved in this, and increase the adoption, increase the number of companies that are using it. So we have, everyone who is using it, like large companies, are contributing a little bit of their development resources to improving it and maintaining it. And I'd like to see it used more by people because I think it's a really effective tool. I think it solves a problem in the world. Do
you have a target in terms of users, or come on, give us the scoop?
A target in terms of users, I don't know, millions and millions. We'll have to see. It's hard for me to say because we're in a highly competitive market right now, and we're one of the options that are out there. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing and building great things and showing everyone what we're doing. So.
Okay, sorry, just one more question about regulation, because if millions and millions of people are using it, presumably at some point the regulators will be interested. So how, what's the picture that you foresee there? Do you see cryptocurrencies being regulated as an asset class?
I definitely think that regulation is coming into the cryptocurrency area, and that's one of our jobs, is to talk with regulators about how cryptocurrency works and teach them. The ones that we've talked with so far are very receptive to it. They think it's a new technology. They know that it's interesting to a lot of people. It can solve problems, but in the same aspect, they need consumer protection on it. They need to make sure it's not being used as a money laundering tool. So we are showing them how it all works, and then that we can adapt to how things go in the future.
Okay, well, I think we're out of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.